You just had a bombshell report about Donald Trump that he's been lying about Trump Tower for decades. Can you give us an overview?
Yeah, so basically, Trump Tower has been a place of myth making since it opened in 1983, starting with Trump saying that he had sold more of the condos for higher prices than he actually did, continuing through the years saying that it was more profitable than it actually was, that it was more valuable than it actually was. It looks like he was lying about the square footage, not only of his penthouse, which we had reported previously, but also of the size of the commercial space downstairs, which is new. So there are all these sort of elements that show that over the years, Donald Trump has lied about his most famous building. And why this all really matters is that right now there are two separate cases, one, a $250 million civil suit against the Trump organization for doing things like this, for lying about the value of its assets. And the second, a criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney. Now, that investigation was famously kind of put on ice, but we don't know whether it's going to come back and whether those prosecutors are looking for more information to perhaps revive it. If they are, this story provides some of it.
Why is he so obsessed about lying about square footage size? Forbes recently reported back in September, I believe, of 2022, that he lied about the square footage of his penthouse. So, what is the point of lying about the size?
Donald Trump, everything's got to be bigger. It's got to be more valuable. It's got to be more impressive. You know, Trump Tower, the top floor is floor number 68. That's because he skipped about 10 floors down below to make it look like it was 10 stories higher than it was. It's consistent across everything that he does, whether it's square feet, whether it's number of stories in a building, whether it's the size of his fortune. In this case, a lot of times you value assets of real estate based on their square footage. And so if you can convince somebody that it has more square feet than it actually does, then you can also convince them that it's more valuable than it actually is. That being able to act like your assets are more valuable than they actually are has business consequences. To banks, insurers, you look more credit worthy. And that can be a good thing for somebody in Donald Trump's position.
How did lenders then get duped for years? Because it seems like this has been a well-known secret. You talked to a construction manager at Trump Tower who said, quote, "It didn't seem like he had the kind of money he claimed he had." So was this a well-known secret?
Well, this is an example, a set of lies looking at one property, but his lies about the value of his property and the characteristics of his properties extend well beyond Trump Tower and well beyond the few years that prosecutors are looking at. So, yes, it was a secret. This aspect of it was a secret, but everyone has long known that Donald Trump lies about his assets. I think that one of the key points here is that although you can know that he lies about his assets, you can still be surprised by the extent to which he lies about his assets. So, for instance, if he says that he's worth $10 billion and you go and you scrub the numbers and you conclude, no, 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 he is way making this up. He's actually only worth $5 billion. You're probably going to pat yourself on the back and think, wow, I really did a good job there calling him out on that. But what you might not understand is that he's not worth $5 billion. He could be worth $2 billion. And so you might be congratulating yourself for having scrutinized him so much while simultaneously attributing an additional $3 billion to him. And I think that that ultimately is what the question is with the banks. Yes, they saw through his lies, like everybody did. Did they see through all of his lies? And it's becoming clearer and clearer that, like everyone else, no, they did not. They were fooled by some things and trusted him on some things too much.
So how were lenders duped for decades?
So a lot of times in the business world, you're relying on people to be truthful. That's why it's a crime to create false business records. So whether it's, for example, a borrower saying, here's how many square feet are in my building, or here's what the occupancy is of my building. Lenders, yes, they do due diligence, but due diligence is supposed to catch a few things if there are things, but ultimately you're supposed to be able to trust the person who you're giving money. You're not expected to have to track down every last square foot, every last occupancy percentage in every single property to determine whether or not they are true or whether or not they are lies.